And thanks for coming today. Thanks for setting this up, you guys, with the rural gospel. And what I'd like to do is send around a sign-up sheet. And please be kind when you write out your email address so that I can read it later. Take some time to do that. Did I do that right? I think I did.
I thought we would see you there, but
Oh, well, that's because the slides are up.
but the slides are supposed to be on there. Is this thing recording? Stop recording, okay.
Okay, so we're good? All right. Okay, so I'm asking you to sign up because I'd like some contact information from you, your phone number and email address. I just simply want to send a thank you note to you after this presentation, and then also an invitation to participate if you're interested in talking more about gift planning. If you're not, tell me that too, and I will not contact you again. But if you are, then what we're going to do is, since I drove from the Twin Cities, if we have some follow-up as far as people who are interested in this, we're gonna need to coordinate and do that in a way that we have appointments where people come here. We'll prescribe a certain date, and I'll see people here on site for a day or two, whatever that's going to take, and we'll do that instead of me driving around the countryside 5 different times, because it's about 300 miles from the Twin Cities. So we need to work this smarter than harder in the future as we go. So I hope you understand that, and thank you for coming here centrally today. I heard the furthest congregation is about 50 miles from here, so a little snow this morning, right? But not a lot. Just enough to get your attention. So what I was walking around earlier doing was asking, what do you want to make sure? What question do you have today that you want answered? And I got some responses from this side, some pretty basic ones that I want to make sure that we cover. If we don't, let me know at the end. How about folks from this side? What do you want to make sure that you get answered today that you may or may not know about gift planning? Anything that you'd be willing to share right now? Okay. All right. I need to kind of stay here because this is where the camera is for the recording, and I need to move my slides. So I'm going to work from this spot. So our process is called a lifetime plan for giving. First thing that you need to understand is that everybody has beneficiary stuff on their assets, and most everybody has their family tied into that. So between spouses to kids to grandkids, all that stuff is probably already figured out. What we're trying to do today is saying, okay, if you're interested in making gifts to ministry, I'm going to show you some pathways to consider providing both gifts for your family and for ministry. With us, it's always a both and. That, of course, you're going to provide gifts to your family, but how do you also consider providing gifts to ministry, whether that's during your lifetime or after you've departed for heaven? Sometimes it's a both and. There's different ways to do that, and we'll walk through some of those types of gift instruments as we go. But it just depends on what you want to do and how you want to do it and when you want to do it. So it's really a very customized process. You're gonna find that out as we go. But it's always about both. We don't want all the gifts going to ministry and your family being cut out, because if I sit down with you and you say, I don't want to give anything to my family, I'm going to have some more questions for you. You know, what's going on? Tell me more. Because typically it's a both and is how we want to approach that. So Here's some, ooh, that did not go to the next slide. What did I do wrong here? Why is that not advancing? There we go. All right. So goals today. We want to understand the principles of stewardship, the needs and the challenges. Why is gift planning needed? What keeps us from preparing a gift plan? And how can I, as a foundation gift planner, help you in that process? A little bit about myself. I have about 15 years of experience in the banking world in the Twin Cities where I grew up. And then from there, I did about 25 years serving in church lending with the LCF in and around the Twin Cities and regionally. And then in the past couple of years, I've been a gift planner with the foundation. So a lot of experience in working with the church, experience in working with numbers and with finances and banking and so on. I enjoy working with congregations and people in them to get to God-pleasing outcomes on your endowments and gift plannings work. That's a family picture from about a year ago. My wife Liz and I, we live in Eden Prairie. We're members of Living Christ in Chanhassen nearby, and our two grown daughters have wonderful husbands, and we have 3 grandchildren, and they all have jobs and homes and their own health care, all those good things that adults have, right? So we're very blessed. So the foundation, we were established in 1958. We are here to serve the church body. We're here to serve members, congregations, and affiliated organizations in the church body. We're an exclusive, that's our customer, if you will, is the church body. I'm not going to make this presentation at the Methodist Church down the street or the ELCA Church. We are here to serve our member congregations, period. That's what we are designed to do. I can help you with endowment funds if you're interested in doing that. We've got people at our national office that work much more with this, with how to invest it, how to get it set up. If you're interested in doing that, I can help you with some of those steps. But then the bread and butter of what I do week in and week out is gift planning work with people in congregations. We're if you don't know much about us, we have over $1 billion under management as an organization, and about over 500 churches and schools and universities that do endowment funds with us. So we have a number of congregations that are doing very large investments with us, 6-7-figure investments that we've been managing for them long term. And like I said, we're exclusive. We serve the church body. So just in 2022, this is just 1 year of distribution out of, and keep in mind, these are gift plans that were done by my predecessors probably 10, 20, 30 years ago, where now the surviving spouse has departed for heaven, or gift plans are being distributed as they go. Either way, but the distributions that happened out of 2022, there were over 3,000 gifts for over $45 million. That's just 1 year of distribution out of gift plans that are being distributed, and that's nationwide. Please keep in mind that over 800 gifts went to LCMS Ministries. Over 80% of those gifts come back to home congregations and things that are local, congregations, schools, If it were around here, maybe even the Rural Gospel Initiative. So the gifts come back very locally when people make them. These are plans that are already set in place for tomorrow's gifts on paper. For the future, there's almost 1,000 gifts set up for about $138 million that are scheduled to go that have not happened yet. So significant amount of gifting that is taking place. Please know also, when you do a gift plan, all those gift plans are basically revocable. So we can sit, we can talk, we can put all the paperwork together, and whatever gift instrument you choose, that's something that we load up for you and get everything situated. But if you need or want to change your mind, you can do that. You can circle back to it. You can revisit it. You can update it. You can change it. So it is a revocable thing until it isn't. So, and I think you know where that transition is. So you can change it 5, 10 times if you want to during your lifetime, but once the last of you has departed for heaven, we're going to look at what's on paper, and that's what's going to happen. So that's how that process works. So what is estate and gift planning? We're here to provide, like I said, provide gifts for both family and ministry. We're trying to find the best assets to give that you have and the best method to give them to turn out the best gifts for family and ministry. So I have no products to sell you. Please know that up front. There's no product lines that I am representing. I have no commission to make off the work I do with you. The work that I provide to you, the service I provide you is free. We make fee income based on the instruments that are chosen. We earn interest off of long-term investments that people after their lives put into gift instruments. So there's ways that we make money to sustain ourselves. But as far as me asking you for a check for my services, that's not part of the process. Gift plans are accomplished via wills, trusts, beneficiary designations, and a lot of different gift instruments to take care of our final affairs. So I've got all these set up on the table up here, and I'm going to run through these, really give you just a brief thumbnail sketch of what each one of these is. And you can pick these up later if you want to, whichever interests you. A bequest, that's just a legal terminology to simply say a gift. A bequest is a gift that you want to make of X dollars or X percentage of your estate. It's a simple, no fuss, no muss. Here's a gift of X that I want to make to A, B, and C. Done deal. A lot of times that happens at the end of life, and it happens, and it's part of the will. A charitable gift annuity. This is for folks who maybe they're probably asset rich but cash flow poor. So if you've got an older couple who has a lot of stock, maybe something like that, but it's not generating any income, this is a gift instrument where you can convert that asset into a cash flow that will literally pay you until you leave this earth. So it's a contractual thing that you gift that asset, it becomes cash flow that you need for whatever purposes, and we do that for you. A personal endowment fund, that is a prescribed thing that you want to give at end of life. It tells us, you tell us where it goes, how much of it goes, and when it goes, and to what ministries. It's a very structured thing that happens. If people think of it as a way to continue your tithing and giving after you've left this earth. You can continue to give to your congregation if you're concerned about its viability 20 years from now, you can continue to make your regular tithe through a personal endowment fund indefinitely if you want to, without any principal even, just the interest coming off an endowment fund. So I've got a couple that has a endowment fund that they're working on. It's a 7-figure endowment fund. So there's ministries that are going to get there's probably 4 or 5 different ministries that are going to get like 5-figure gifts every year until Jesus comes back. It's never going to run out, and it's going to be a very generous gift to about 4 or 5 different ministries every year after they're gone. A donor-advised fund is a similar kind of thing, but it's very different. A donor-advised fund means we've got a lot of. I've got another couple who's got 6 figures in their checking and savings account. That's a lot. So I've told them, you know, if you're interested in making gifts now, which they told me that they're interested in, this is a tool, this is an instrument, a donor-advised fund that you can take. You can start this with only like $25,000 today. You can take this and set it up, and you can gift it. So it's a dollar for dollar tax deduction based on what you started with. So if you started with $50,000, that's a $50,000 immediate tax deduction in this year's taxes for that kind of gift. Then we have it on hand as a fund. That's why it's called a donor advised fund. You're the advisor to this fund now. You tell us where you want contributions to go, how much you want to go, and when. So otherwise it just sits there and can kind of sit there indefinitely. But the intent is that you're going to give out charitable gifts, but you don't know exactly how and when you want to do that. So once you park some money in this kind of fund, then you can decide later who you want it to go to, when you want it to go, and how much. And then you can replenish it. If you spend it down, you can grow it. You can pass it. You can even pass this on to the next generation if you want your family to be involved in kind of a legacy of a family gift fund that can be passed on once you're gone to your heirs. Then they become the advisors to that fund. So I know it's a lot of information, but it'll make more sense as we sit down and look at each one of these. A charitable remainder trust, that is a very popular instrument, and we're going to talk in some detail about what that is, because this is the one where if you have highly taxable assets, like IRAs and 401ks, those trying to flow those through your estate and to let kids inherit IRAs, if they're not Roth IRAs, because you've paid the tax up front on a Roth IRA. If it's a regular IRA or 401k, the government, the U.S. government has been patiently waiting for you to take this money out because it hasn't been taxed yet. So if you try to pass it through an inheritance, there's a give or take taxation of about 30% that comes off the top of a gift like that. Maybe it's less in South Dakota because your taxes are a little different. But if you're in Minnesota, that's gonna chew up about 30% of that asset right out of the gate between state and federal if you try to pass that directly to your kids. So there's ways by using a charitable remainder trust to soften that and to create a cash flow to your heirs for a window of time, and then once that window of time is done, then that also becomes a gift to ministry. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in some more detail later on. So let's define stewardship. Dictionary.com defines stewardship as a position of a steward. And I heard the steward word, that's a good church word earlier. A surrogate of another, managing property, financial affairs, and estate. That's actually a pretty good definition out of dictionary.com. Responsible for overseeing and protecting of something worth caring for and preserving, right? An estate, your assets are things that are worth caring for. So those are actually pretty good definitions. Let's talk about the difference between stewardship and ownership. We've been redeemed, we've been bought back and rescued from sin through that sacrifice of Jesus. So ownership, we belong to Jesus. Our things are all God's things. So if we think all of our things are our things, well, they're kind of just on loan, if you know what I mean. And there's some scripture that helps clarify that for us. In 1 Peter, each of us should use whatever gifts we'd received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace. Ephesians 2:10, we're God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, prepared in advance for us to do. We love Ephesians 2:8-9, right? We're saved by grace through faith. This is kind of that piece at the end that we don't focus on as much. There's stuff that's been prepared in advance for us to do. So what happens if we don't do it? Does it get done? I don't know. That's maybe a good conversation. How about the last one? This is a little more direct. We brought nothing into this world, we take nothing out of it. As the saying goes, there are no hearses with luggage racks, right? So whatever you think you're going to take with you, not so much. That's all staying here. And how do you want to do that, distribute that in a God-pleasing way? Let me give you some stewardship examples, and you can decide whether they're good or bad. Let's talk about the Halloween industry briefly. Back in 2022, Halloween spending was over $10 billion. Just pet costumes, people spent over $300 million. Now, is that good stewardship? or is that kind of affluence run amok in our culture? Halloween is actually the second biggest decorating holiday behind Christmas. I don't know if you guys see that in this part of the world, but we definitely see that in the Twin Cities. There's very elaborate Halloween decorations in people's yards. Here's another industry example. I'm not sure if you have as much of this as we have, but the self-storage industry. There's over 54,000 facilities that have sprouted up since the 1960s. 10% of households have storage units. It's a $48 billion industry. We have so much stuff that we need to store it off-site. Even these homes with triple garages, there's folks lucky to get one car in a garage because there's so much stuff. How did we get so much stuff? I have to think post-World War II that wasn't an issue, that there wasn't that much stuff. We even have a cable TV show that features auctioning off abandoned storage units because people forget they have them, or they move on and they leave them there and they don't pay the rent, and suddenly someone else claims it. So again, is this stewardship or is it affluence that is being run unchecked? So why is estate and gift planning needed? Only half of us have wills done, maybe less. So that's a place to start. There's IRAs in this country that are valued at over $11 trillion right now. So it's not uncommon for me to sit down with a couple who, if they've both been working for 30, 40 years, you sit down and they have 7 figures in IRAs. It's just incredible. I sit down with the millionaires next door day after day between people's value of their homes, their investments, their inheritance, their 401ks, their IRAs. It always adds up, and it's an amazing number of okay, here's what we have, what can we do with it? Let's talk about probate for a minute. If you don't have a will in place, you are inviting, at least in my part of the world, you're inviting the state of Minnesota into the party. That is not a good idea. It's not a good idea. A probate court is going to decide how your assets are distributed if you don't have a will in place. And I'd have to do a little research, but I have to guess that would be the same here too. If you don't have a will, it's going to go to probate. So if you don't want the state to help you decide how your assets are done, then it's going to be a good idea to start with a will. And if you don't have a will done, a gift plan can run alongside a will process at the same time. Here's an example I want to show you. This guy wasn't a Lutheran, and if you recognize him, that's Prince, local to the Twin Cities. He had no will when he died in 2016. He was famously distrustful of lawyers, didn't want to do any kind of official paperwork, a creative, private type of guy, had no will in place. He had no spouse, he was divorced twice, no surviving children, lived in Carver County. They opened a probate case. They had to. Within 3 weeks of his death, he has a full sister that came forward and 5 half-siblings. 700 other people claim to be his descendants. It's a celebrity fame thing, maybe. I don't know. The estate was settled in 2022 with the full sister and the 5 half-siblings. So it all made sense, but it took 6 years of probate to get that done because there was no will in place that were the guideposts to help get this done. So what do you think happened during that 6 years? I'm sure the attorneys were happy. That's a lot of due diligence to process 700 people who thought they were heirs. So that's kind of an extreme case. So misperceptions and lack of information about gift planning. Those who have wills, if you have a will, great. But also if you have a will, probably about 70% of them need to be updated. I know my wife and I did a will probably 15, 20 years ago. I know it needs updating. So it's a benchmark thing. You do it at a certain point in time, maybe when the kids are minors or when the kids become adults, and life happens, and it needs updating. So even if you have one, it probably needs updating. So if you go to an attorney to do estate planning, and there's services that are now being advertised more and more, I notice that, about doing estate planning, getting a will done. There's even advertising that's starting to happen for that. I don't think most attorneys stop the conversation at some point and ask you, what kind of gifts do you want to make to ministry? That's not their job. That's not part of what they do. If you come in with that, if you come in with me to the attorney visit and you say, well, I have a gift plan of X that I want to do to A, B, and C, here's the draft paperwork we want you to look at. They'll say, okay, great. We'll incorporate that into the process and we're good to go. But they're not going to ask that on their own. That's not their job. That's my job, is to help you walk you through that process. If I make a gift to ministry, my children will receive less inheritance. I can show you instances where that is not the case, depending on the gift instrument that you use. And in most cases, there's plenty of assets to go around. So even if the kids are getting 90% instead of 100%, I don't think they're going to be lacking in any resources. No individual or congregation has ever asked me to make a gift. That's a pervasive one. I was asking some people, has gift planning conversation ever happened in your congregation? Chances are it has not, and it's not coming from anyone within the congregation or from staff. It's not coming from outside. You simply don't know how to do it because no one's ever asked. No one's ever talked about the process. I don't know how to do a gift, so I either don't know about it or I don't know how to do it. That's what I'm here to help you do. That's my job, is to sit alongside you, walk you through the process, help you to prayerfully consider what you want to do, customized to your assets, how you want to do it, when you want to do it, how much, and I will find you the right gift instrument that matches up with what that is. Keep in mind that these are your assets, and they're your assets to use your whole life. I don't take anything from you or repurpose it until you've departed this earth. So if we say that we're going to dedicate $500,000 of IRAs to a gift plan, that's your asset to use your whole life. I don't have any ownership of that. That's your asset until you're both gone, and then we repurpose it into what you want us to use it for. So if that $500,000 20 years from now is $750,000, great. But if you spent it down to $250,000, we take whatever's there and put it into the gift plan that you've set up. So please know that they're your assets to use at your discretion throughout your life. We just have a gift plan tied to it at some point that tells us what you want to do when the time comes. So, what keeps us from estate planning? Well, it's too complicated, right? It's legalese, it's finances, it's taxes. I don't want to deal with that. I'm too busy. I've got too much of work to do. I got kids, I've got grandkids, I got retirement. Too serious. This is a big one. We get to talk about death. I've got news for you. Unless your name is Elijah, there's a 100% chance you're not going to survive this life. So you got 100% certainty that this is going to happen. And do you want to plan for it? Do you want to help your kids plan for it with what's on paper? We can help you do that. It's too expensive. Well, there is going to be a spot where you're going to need to go to an attorney to get some official paperwork done, and that's just part of the process. And we're going to find attorneys in this area that specialize in estate and gift planning, and wills, and get them lined up with what you want to do, and it's just part of the process, and it just has to happen that way. It's too unnecessary. I don't have enough. There was a question about how much do I have to do a gift plan. Well, I told you on a donor advised fund, it only takes $25,000 to do a donor advised fund. I had a retired church worker. She turned 90 this year, and she's literally gonna gift the proceeds of her house once she dies. So, on paper, it's going to be about $150,000 gift, give or take. And she said, "Well, it's not a very big gift, compared to other gifts you work with." I said, "It's a big gift for you." So it's all relative. It just depends on what your estate has and what's in it, and we work with whatever you have, large or small. It's not a priority, being unnecessary. Well, we were all young and healthy once, right? So time marches on, and we need to get this stuff down and buttoned down on paper, and make it a priority at some point, because if we don't, what happens? Whatever's in writing is what's going to happen. I've got a guy in his mid-80s, west of the metro, who's going to do a big gift. It's a 7-figure gift to ministry out of his estate, and I've sat with him 6-7 times already, and we keep noodling around with the percentages and the numbers and how he wants to do it, because there's some dynamics with the family and with his sons, and it's just not quite there yet. And he stopped me at the end of a meeting. He said, "Well, what happens if I died tonight?" I said, "Well, what's going to happen is what's on paper. And we're not done yet with this gift planning process. So what's on paper is what you had done before." And he just said, "Well, that's no good." I said, "Well, I'll work as urgently as you want me to, but we need to get this done, and we need to get this through the process to make sure what exactly you want to happen is going to happen." So we have a process. These booklets, it's called the Lifetime Plan for Giving process. This is kind of your one-stop shopping booklet. It talks about us a little bit. There's a whole discovery. This discovery process is kind of basically the intake. So we're asking for your information, private information, about your assets, about your family, and there's a survey so I can better understand what your priorities are. If you want to do gifting now, if you want to do it later, what are the important things for you that we need to consider as we put a gift plan together. Then I work you through, once I have this data, and there's different ways I can collect it. We can sit down and collect it together. I'll send you a portal that gives you a sign-in, and you can do it electronically. There's not many people who are interested in doing that. I'll also send you a form that has the intake. You can download it, you can print it, you can fill it out yourself, you can send it back to me, or we can sit down together and walk through it. Bottom line is we need that information to help walk you through what your gift plan is going to be based on what your assets are. So once I understand what your priorities are and what your assets are, I'm going to match that together, and when we sit down, I'm going to have 3, 4, 5 different gift plan options. That's called the planning design phase. So I'm going to show you different designs based on what your priorities are and your assets. Not some cookie cutter of what I want you to do. It's hopefully along the lines of what you want to do based on what your priorities are. And then we're going to summarize that. We're going to prayerfully consider it together. And then we're going to be ready to go to an attorney and get whatever we need signed and updated. And then at that point, we're going to do what we need to do, getting that buttoned down and getting that implemented. So it's a whole process. Typically, that takes multiple visits to get done. So we're gonna need to figure out how to do that in this setting, because that could be 4, 5, 6 visits to get to the end of that process, and months of work and consideration on what you want to do and how you want to do it. So it's not an overnight process. When I interviewed for this position, I was a little skeptical, frankly, because the foundation was birthed by the Synod, Synod Inc., and I said, is there a short list of gifts that you want me to make sure that I solicit for? You know, for like World Mission, Synod Inc., Seminary. And they said, no, this is a completely donor-driven process. So the gifts that you want to make are the gifts that you want to make, not the gifts that I'm suggesting that you make. I hope you hear that it's completely driven by what you want to do. Now, in some of these gift instruments, most of them, over half of the gifts that you want to give are going to go, they need to go to LCMS-oriented entities. So that would include your home church or a school nearby or university. So that's not an issue with us, typically. If we've got someone who wants to make 6 different gifts and one of them is Pheasants Forever or local food shelf, we can do that. We just need to set up the infrastructure, the tax ID number, and we'll guide that gift where you want it to. But you need to know that we're an entity of Synod, and over half of your gifts need to go to churches and schools. It's typically a non-issue because that's what people are going to give to anyway. So that's how we have that process set up. So we can help you with a faith statement. We've got some examples. If you want to do a blessing to your family, here's what my family means to me, my faith. That can be the first part of your gift plan. We're gonna review your whole everything that you got in assets, from the cash and checking, which is what you do you're giving out of now probably, to all of the non-cash stuff, which is over 90% of people's assets. That's where the gift planning comes from, on how you want to do that, what you want to do with that. And the estate plan, the gift plan, we will pray over that and make sure that we get the paperwork lined up with whatever the specific kind of gift instrument is. Walk you through that entire process. It'll go as fast or as slow as you want it to. Some folks want to work faster. There's some urgency there. Some folks need more time. That's up to you. Please note, big disclaimer here, we are not attorneys, we are not tax advisors. Most of you have a tax advisor or a financial planner, right? Most people have that. Most people do not have attorneys though. So I'm going to be needing to do some work on getting some names for attorneys in this area who do wills and estate planning, because most of my contacts are obviously Twin Cities oriented. So I'll have some conversations with a couple of you about who we can do some referrals to in this area. I know there's some attorneys who do that work, and Paige is already nodding. So she's already got some names in mind. Good. Because we want to make sure it's an attorney that's not a litigator. It's not someone who goes to court and sues people. It's someone who sits down and does wills and estate work with folks, because that's what we need them to do for you. So we'll get the will done. We'll encourage you to also do a power of attorney and healthcare directive. Those are important add-on things to a will in this day and age, to make sure that when the time comes, you've got someone that you trust that's going to take care of your finances when you're unable to, and someone who is going to take care of healthcare issues for you as well. The same guy same 85-year-old guy has one son that's going to do the power of attorney because he's in the numbers field, and he's got another son whose wife is a nurse. She's going to do the healthcare directive. So choose wisely who's going to do what, and know that they're going to work in your best interests. And we have, I'm going to talk to you briefly about a charitable trust. The only reason it's called a pour-over, it means that a charitable trust is basically an empty bucket that you set up during your lifetime. There's nothing in it because there's no assets in it until both of you have departed for heaven. And then the assets are poured over and fill up this bucket for distribution. It's only activated through your will. Otherwise, it just sits there empty your whole life. We will set you up with a gift letter that shows you specifically what percentages and where you want things to go, so people understand how that's going to work. And then we also need you to work on your beneficiary designations. Sometimes those will need to be changed or altered in some way, so that so that asset points to where you want it to go as part of your gift plan. Just because if it isn't changed, then the gift plan doesn't happen. Then it just goes to family. So this is an example of a no ministry gifts example, and I know you can't read these numbers very well, but this is an estate, the Martin Luther estate, even of $2.6 million. So when you give us all your information, it's going to feed into these different boxes that's going to show you everything that you have in one spot. It's kind of an interesting one-stop shopping thing. All of your real estate and personal property is going to end up in that first box, and if you can't read that, that's got like home, car, personal property. That's all stuff that's either cash or easily converted to cash that flows right down to family. Easy to do. Other investments, that's your other liquid stuff, cash, checking, money market, stock. Again, that's very easily converted to cash, goes right to your family. Easy process, no fuss. Life insurance the same way. It's got a direct beneficiary, either to each other or to your kids. So those first three boxes all flow very easily down to your family as cash or converted to cash. That last column is a sticky one. It's the retirement and annuity assets. So you can see in this example, there's about $1.7 million in IRAs. Now, if you approach that in a way, at least in the state of Minnesota, you're going to get this big whammy of, and I'm going to highlight these for you. if you see your estate value is about $2.7 million, your family in this example would actually get about $2.1 million, because those IRAs are going to be hit with taxation, inheritance taxation, and the taxation on that's going to be about $500,000 off the top that your kids are not going to get. In the meantime, there's been no ministry gift that's been established here. So ministry, it's basically is shut out from this. It's all going to family, and the rest of it's going to taxes. So I know it's a lot to absorb right now, but that's something that we would walk through your example, specifically what your needs are. So that's a no ministry gift. Ministry gets nothing there. Here's another example. This is when you incorporate what's called a charitable remainder trust. So we're basically taking all the first three boxes still go down to your family. That flows normally as it does. But in the meantime, that $1.7 million is going to go into what's called a charitable remainder trust. So there's that bucket that you've set up that's empty. Now you're going to fill it with $1.7 million of assets, and that's going to generate a distribution of about $85,000 a year. So let's say if you got 4 kids, that's 80,000 divided by 4. So 25,000 per kid. So if you got 4 kids, each kid's going to get about $20,000 a year out of that trust for 20 years. So we're taking that at your death, and we're long-term investing that, because you've filled that bucket up with that asset. We're long-term investing it. We're pledging you a 20-year, 5% return. So your kids are going to get $20,000 a year for 20 years, once a year. They're going to get hit with a $20,000 check if you got 4 kids. So, $85,000 annually. They're not going to get inheritance taxed on that. They're simply going to get regular taxation. So it would be kind of like a work bonus or something. So it's still going to get ordinary taxation, ordinary income taxation, but it's going to be far less than inheritance taxation. So that happens for 20 years for your kids. So they're going to get the entire value of that asset over 20 years, that $1.7 million. Inheritance taxation is going to be shut out this time. At the end of the 20 years, due to the magic of the time value of money, that bucket quietly refills itself every year after the distribution. And after 20 years, there is still $1.7 million in that bucket. That becomes a ministry gift that you now designate is going to go to A, B, C, and D at these percentages. We make that gift. Remember I told you there were $45 million in gifts that went out last year? That's part of this. So 20 years later, you're making a $1.7 million gift to ministry. Now, ministry has to wait 20 years, but you can do some of that up front at your death. You can add a bequest gift right at your death. Now, maybe a couple $100,000, and you could change that 1.7 down to 1.5. So there's different ways to slice and dice that with whatever you want to do. But look at what your family's getting now. They're getting the whole value of that estate, the $2.7 million, plus ministry is getting $1.7 million. So you've literally given more than your estate is worth to your kids and to ministry because of the time value of money. Now, I got trained on this example a couple years ago. I said, that can't be right. That's just too good to be true. So no, it refills itself over time, and it's still going to be there after 20 years. And we call this the giving it twice principle, because you're not only giving everything in that asset to your family, but you're also giving all of it to ministry at the same time. So this is that example of your kids are not going to get less. They're going to get all of it, and ministry is going to get all of that asset at the same time. I know it's a lot to process, but it's let me just say this is a very popular gift instrument with a lot of folks, because there's a lot of folks who have a lot of money sitting in IRAs and 401ks. And there's ways to gift them that are big tax hits, and there's ways to gift them that are not, and can also be gifts to ministry. Please, yeah.
You mentioned 5%.
Yep.
So we have a charitable radio trust, and there's some that offer 6%, some that offer 8, some offer 4. How do you come up with a 5%?
The 5% is our sweet spot. So we can go up to 6 or 6.5%, but the 5% at 20 years is the one that is best at replenishing itself.
But that's just a guess at what the returns are going to be over the next 20 years. If
Yeah,
the
and
returns were better,
right.
6 or 7 would still
It might be better. It might be better than the 5%.
Would they give you more than the 5%
They-
if the returns are better, or how does that work?
They might, yeah,
Or does it just
yeah,
go into your
because typically what happens with this is that payment recalculates itself every year. So depending on what the returns were, that $20,000 check, if it was a bad year, maybe that drops to 18,000. But if it was a better year, maybe that check goes to 22,000.
So it does recalculate, so at the
Yep.
end there'd be 1.7 left.
Yep.
Whether they've given you
Yep.
12% for 2 years because it did really good, at the end to catch up, it would go down that.
Yeah, our structure of 20 years at 5% is really is a math thing, and we've proven that over time. That's the best way to distribute it for us.
But they would give more
Yep.
if the returns
Yep.
were better than the 5%.
Yes. Yes. So IRAs, as we're talking about IRAs, and I don't know if your churches are set up with the nuts and bolts infrastructure to handle this. If they're not, you need to have some conversation with your church treasurers and business managers, because there's a lot of IRA money out there, and like I said, the government has been patiently waiting, and there's actually rules in place saying by X age, you now are you have to start taking money out of this IRA. So I'm going to throw some acronyms at you. If you're not doing QCDs with your RMDs out of your IRAs, got all that? You're missing a big opportunity. IRAs have what's called a required minimum distribution, and it's actually a math formula that the government has given you, that you have to take out at least this percent starting at this age, and you need to start taking it out because we want to tax it, because we haven't had the opportunity to do that. So with this required distribution, you can do what's called a QCD, which is a qualified charitable distribution. Now, this is a gift. This is a giving thing that you can do. Let's say your account is with Fidelity, with this IRA. You can go from point A, Fidelity, to point B, to St. Paul's. No fuss, no muss, no taxation for you, no taxation for the church. You can literally give that to the church without any tax. So if your churches are not set up to do this, and if you have folks with IRAs who have distributions that are simply being piled into checking accounts, and people have way too much money in those checking accounts, there's a way to give that, if you don't need it in your cash flow, directly to charity. And you don't get taxed, charity doesn't get taxed. Now, you don't any longer get to claim it as a tax deduction. But this charitable distribution, we've got people in churches who are giving their entire annual giving out of their IRAs for their church contributions. And they're probably giving more than they did before, by a long shot, because we've got some folks who don't need the cash distributions out of their IRAs for a variety of reasons. They're already set up with pensions, Social Security, so that extra 25,000 a year or whatever it is that they are being forced to take out, they don't need it. God bless them. You know, they've been very blessed. So that can become a gift to charity. Like I said, no tax to you, no tax to charity. Now you can't, you have to go right from point A to point B. If you are point B and then the church is point C, then you're going to get taxed. You can't say, well, I want them to distribute it to me first, then I'm going to give it to the church. Well, wrong answer, because that step in between, they're going to tax you before you send it to the church. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the government will find a way, right? So, I'm sorry? Yes. So you can also gift appreciated assets. So people who, if, like I said, if there's churches that are set up to receive IRAs, there's also churches that are set up to receive stock, right? So there's people who will make gifts of stock, and churches will take that and they'll liquidate it and turn it into cash. Maybe around here it's gifting proceeds from crops or land or something like that. So there's different ways to slice and dice that. Our guy in Iowa who has been up in this area, he's got people who give cropland. That's pretty valuable stuff in Iowa. And it's a way to give it because it's an appreciated asset that you can do. So that's what I got for you today. I've got my cards up here. I look forward to working with you. I hope that we can see a lot of interest here, that people are interested in doing gift plans, and I'm here to help. And my phone number, my email address is going to be on the card, and I am 300 miles away. I get that. So if we have a number of you who are interested in talking about a gift plan going forward, we're going to coordinate that with Denise, with Paige, and get some appointments set up probably here in town here in Aberdeen, and have appointments over a day or two, however many people are interested in doing that. And I'll come back out. I'm happy to make the drive if people are interested in doing a gift plan. So that's what I got for you today. I encourage you to take whatever interests you in that material. I've also got a pamphlet on long-term investing. If your church is interested in doing an endowment fund, there's some information about that as well. So, did I answer questions along the way? What didn't I answer? What comments or questions do you have while you've got me here before I point the car back east later on today? Oh, tomorrow. I've got one later today too. Yes. So the question is does everything happen when you die? To put it bluntly, right? No. It depends on which gift instrument you want to use. And there are, well, any number of these can be done while you're still on this earth. It just depends on how you want to structure it. If you want to do some stuff now, like I said, I've sat with people who have way more than they need in their checking and savings accounts, and I said, we'll do a gift plan, but there's nothing stopping you from making gifts now, if you want to do that, and I can set you up in almost any one of these. The charitable remainder is at end of life, but as is a personal endowment, but a donor advised fund, that would be during your lifetime. You could do a bequest now if you want to. You could set up a charitable gift annuity now. So half of these could be done during your lifetime, and some for as little as $25,000. So the entry point and the ability to do that now is it just depends on what you want to do, because you know some people want to do it all at the end. This is what I want people to inherit. It's going to go in my will. That's a done deal. It's going to happen when I'm gone and I'm with Jesus. Well, the downside of that is if there's some gifts that you wanted to make during your lifetime to some charities that you loved and to your family. By the way, you can give each family member, the IRS rules now, $17,000 a year without any tax consequence as cash gifts. And that's husband and wife. They could both get $17,000 if you want to do that. So there's ways to make gifts now. And some people really, there's a lot of joy in doing gifting while you're alive, because the ministry that you give it to or family, they actually can tell you thank you while you're still around, and you can see how it's going to be used. So there's some great advantages to that, as opposed to leaving all that to go once you're departed from this earth. So there's some pretty sad statistics about inheritances that I've seen, that if generationally these generations before us have saved dutifully their money and their savings for decades and decades, and suddenly that inheritance gets dropped in the lap of an heir in a lump sum, and there's some pretty sad statistics showing that within about 18 months, those inheritances are spent. So that's a lot of cars and boats and trips and cabins and things that suddenly are great windfalls for the next generation that someone else saved for 50 plus years. So choose wisely how you want to do it, and know your family and know how you want to do it and how you want to see that unfold. Did that answer? Hopefully more than. Okay. Other questions? Yeah, please.
Pretty unusual to have letters in your first name and last name.
Kinda.
Why did you mention that over earlier?
I'm very German. Yeah.
I think we should mention, RGI right now, we are invested with the foundation.
Great. And if you are an RSO, which means a recognized organization, so the synod, the mothership down in St. Louis, there's organizations all around the country, or all around the church body, that do great work, and there's an application process if you want to become what's called a recognized service organization. The synod will take your paperwork and your application, and it's like 30 pages of application, something like that. And they will look through it. They will check off their boxes, and they will say, you are now blessed as an RSO of the synod. So what does this mean? The Good Lutheran question. It means that you are now officially designated as a charity. Not that it couldn't be given to before as a charity, but it's an RSO of the synod. So it's got that official stamp of approval of the synod as a recognized organization. And for my previous life, if that RSO wanted to take, that RSO now has access to other church services like lending through LCF and things like that. So being an RSO is a good thing, because you're officially identified as part of synod. You're easy to find when we're putting together a gift letter. You've got a tax ID number. You're all good to go. So it's not going to be trying to hunt that down. So you've done all those good steps, and that just helps the process. Yeah, please.
I think you mentioned this at the very beginning. We had talked, somebody had mentioned something about generation. We have been so fortunate that we had people come before us
Yes.
who were so faithful. And people of our generation, and even our children, have not had to go through many of the things that our folks, the grandparents, had to go through in
And that's why over 80% of gifts go back to home congregations and schools, because people have such a love for that home congregation. And I was telling a couple folks before the meeting, play out this scenario, because I can't tell you the number of pastors I've talked to who have had numerous funerals over the past 5 to 10 years from families who've been members for decades. And so very few gifts come back to the church out of those events, because no one ever asked them and they didn't know how. And it's just such a sad lost opportunity, because if asked, people would say, I'd love to be able to give a gift to my church, but I don't know how to do it. Well, here's how you do it. And the scenario I painted was, after the estate is settled, I don't see many kids getting together and saying, you know what, let's all give 10% off the top of our inheritance to the church because mom and dad really love their church life at Trinity. Do you think that happens? No. But if it was baked into a gift plan as part of their will, and it's on paper, and mom and dad say, this gift of this amount of 10% of our estate, or whatever it's going to be, is going to go back to Trinity, the kids are going to go, oh yeah, mom and dad love their church life. That's great. We're still getting 90%, which is still plenty. So there's ways, but if it's not on paper, it's not going to happen. Let me go a step further on that one. We have already in our documents, and this comes up in conversations a lot, because if you want to make a gift to your congregation, and you're just looking at the time span, okay, 20, 30 years from now, I want to make a gift to my congregation. Is it still going to be around, right? Well, we have language already built into the gift letter that says if Trinity down the road is no longer in existence, we're going to find the closest reasonable facsimile to that, because that gift has been made to us as a charitable organization that has to go out to a charity. So we're going to find the next best alternative if that congregation no longer exists. If you want to give us a plan B built into the gift plan, we can do that too. So I get it. People are sensitive about, I've got a lady she's going to make a gift to her home church and to a school in urban Minneapolis. And I said, neither of these might be around 20, 30 years from now. So what do you want us to do? We'll find a place to give the gift, but if you have something in mind for us, tell us. So that's built into the process too. Yeah.
So in that scenario, would your organization make that decision?
Yes.
So it doesn't go down to let's ask their children?
No.
Okay.
No. And that's the interesting thing about a donor advised fund. A donor advised fund can be a legacy piece, because you want to build in an element of giving. You want to pass that value down to your kids. So whatever you have left in your donor advised fund, when you leave this earth, let's say there's still $50,000 in it, that donor advised fund can be passed down to the next generation to continue giving out of that fund. Now, they might give to some things that are completely different than you did, but that's their prerogative. Now they're the advisors. Now, if you don't think you're going to like their choices, that can happen too. You can put a final gift request on a donor advised fund, kind of like a bequest. So when you leave this earth, if there's anything left in it, it's going to go here. So we can cover that base either way. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah, please.
I guess that's why RGI was formed. There's 15 congregations in Circuit 1. And that question arises a lot. Will my congregation be here?
Yep.
And
Yep.
I think we all have that feeling. I want it to be here, but God only knows.
Yep.
And the concept of RGI was to
Yep.
Another congregation, supporting a pastor possibly, doing different functions. But I will tell you, it's not to be given for brick and mortar.
Right.
We're here for word and sacrament. And with the funds that we have invested, they come back to us. And now we're trying to promote programs like this. And we actually are looking at a vicarage program, possibly bringing in some vicars through the summer that maybe can help congregations and them grow, vicars grow also.
Yep.
These are the ideas. And we're looking for congregations circuit-wide that have a mission they would like maybe some help with.
Mhm.
And RGI is here to support.
And that's if that didn't get picked up, uh, RGI is a gifting alternative that you can consider in this area. I'm not going to be evangelically twisting your arm to do that. That's your choice. But for this area, that's a great alternative because that's going to be an umbrella organization. If your congregation is no longer around, it's going to go into this kitty that's going to continue to do ministry in this area. So it's a good catch-all. Yeah.
So in your work, if you come back into this area and you work with people in Circuit 1,
Yep.
is there any way that you can give that information that, these people want to leave their congregation, but that's not something
I would be happy to. So the question was, can I offer that as an alternative for giving the rural gospel? I'm sure that you guys would be happy to provide me with some brochures as I meet with people, and offer that up as an. It's knowing that it's a choice of the donor, but if you're concerned about the lifespan of your congregation, here's something you might want to consider. And if they have questions about that, I want them talking to one of you folks who are in leadership of the organization, so they have the best understanding beyond the brochure what it's going to do.
The moral of today's story, however, is do your estate planning. I think that's the main thing. And through that, I think, and through discussions with Kurt or your family, you'll find where God wants you to do that. But it's important that you do what He said to do, so you don't end up like Kurt. I mean,
And
we call back and say, oh, I've got something the same as Prince, but it's not the kind you want.
well, and point well taken. Do something, because what's in writing is what's going to happen, and you probably already have something in mind, or maybe now you have something in mind that you have the capacity to consider. Well, I can give to more than family. There's ways that I can give gifts to ministry. I'm interested in doing that. Tell me more. Show me how to do that. Happy to do that, and let's work through that process. And like I said, if it's not done, it's not going to get done, and you can only put it off so long, right? So, like I've told others, we will work at whatever urgency you want to work with. And some folks love to get the stuff done quickly, and others, stuff can linger. But everybody's different. Other questions? Good comments? So I'm assuming my clipboard made it all the way around to everybody. Did that go around or not? Okay. So I will, like I said, I will be sending you a thank you for being here today. And in that thank you is going to be an invitation to participate in a gift planning process. So I will provide you with a hard copy of the intake form that I'm going to need, and also an electronic link. or you can take a booklet and we can do it that way too. So whatever your comfort level is, if you're interested in moving the process forward, we're going to gather information about you so then I can design gift plans, and then we can get together and talk about what those options look like based on what your wishes are. So I look forward to doing that. So thank you. Yeah.
I don't want to cut it if anybody else has anything to say. I will say, my personal opinion, I don't think we can, put it this way. I think. My mother needs a loud voice. Maybe I should get closer to you, Mother. I don't think we can give our families a better example. I know Cindy in our case, we're very blessed. But I think I need to teach my grandkids maybe giving is important, even more than taking. And I think by maybe some type of a gifting program, we can instill in our kids and our grandkids to give back to the Lord all the blessings, that He's bestowed upon all of us. And I guess that's all I have to say about. Mother, did you hear all that? Yeah. I will repeat it at home. All right. Thank you.
The other thing I'd like to add to that, is I think it's quite important to give while you're still alive.
I like
Why
it.
not see where your money is going?
Yeah.
Why not help who you want to help?
Right.
That,
Instead of waiting till you're gone.
that's completely up to the donor. What's your comfort level? Do you want to see some results now and enjoy that, or do you want to wait till the end, or do a little bit of both? It's completely your call.
For all the non-board members, did you enjoy it, or did you learn? Did you feel it was a learning experience here today? And I wish, it starts with a small group. And I think all of our congregations, I know at Columbia, we have a lot of loyal members that just, how do I have, we just don't have the right, mechanism to give back. And I think if they could be shown this mechanism, we'd have a lot of interest. Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.